Hello, it's me, Michael. Today I am going to make pie crust. And I decided I'm getting rid of all pretense. I'm not going to try to be a cute food blogger. I got my gloves on. I'm just going to show you how I would really make a pie crust for customers, for family, for every day with no fluff. Okay, here's my knife for cutting the butter. I'm going to put that aside. My little 3/4 cup measuring cup that I've had forever. It works perfectly because it's just the right amount of water for a double batch. Got my tablespoon and my trusty pastry cutter. I love this one. It is, I swear by it. I've tried all of them. I know I have. This is the one that stands the test of time. There's a link for it many times on my pie crust recipe. And then I also have this scraper that I use for turning the pie crust. And I have 2 bowls because according to the recipe you have to separate out the flour. And then I have my scale because I always measure my ingredients as far as the flour goes. So, you know, I go by grams. I'm tearing it. I'm going to make a double batch of flour. So I need 25 grams. So this big hunka. I lied. It's not grams. It's ounces. And I need 25 ounces. When I'm making coffee in the morning, I use grams. So that flour ran out. I didn't quite have enough. So I'm switching. That was my... Now this one. And I've done this so many times I can just kind of shake it into here without making a mess, but it will be perfectly fine to use a spoon. And I went too far, so I'm gonna back it up. I don't think you can see the scale, but it says 25.18, so I need to take out some. Bam, on the nose. Okay, so now to this flour mixture, I'm going to get rid of the scale. I need to add sugar, and I lost the tablespoon. There it is. I need 4 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to stir this all up just to get it nice and incorporated. I'm going to get the little bowl, separate out about 1/3 of the flour. There you go. I'm going to set that aside. This is where I'm going to work. I'm going to cut up my butter. I already have it measured out. I just slice it into pats. And I'll put that in the big bowl. Like that. I'm probably not using good knife skills. But I'm just some lady at my house slicing butter. So then when I get about half of it in, I just stir it up. And I like to get the butter and the flour, you know, get the butter pats kind of coated. I have 2 more sticks of butter to add. And this is an enormous amount of butter in a pie crust. It's what makes it delicious. There's no shortening or lard or vodka, nothing secret here. This is just straight up water, flour, sugar, butter. Okay. All the butter is in. Now it's time for the magic. Get out my pastry cutter. I start pressing down, cutting up the butter. And some people say they like to do it with a food processor, and that's great. If you like the food processor, there are directions in the original recipe that you can do that, but I just like doing it by hand. And I have done thousands and thousands of pie crust this way. And I don't know if I'm just a control freak and I like to be looking at the pie crust when I do it, but whenever I use the food processor, I just feel like it doesn't come out as well. So I do it by hand. And you can see the butter is getting smaller and smaller. Every now and then I wipe that off. When I've gotten rid of all the pockets or like the areas of dry dusty flour, then I get the little small bowl of flour that we set aside earlier, my bowl scraper, and I start sprinkling it in and gently tossing around. And this is really the secret of what makes the pie crust flaky and tender. It's no magic ingredient. I'm not having to work super fast. This video is in real time. No camera tricks. So then I toss it around. I try to make sure all the butter's coated again with that extra flour that I reserved. Now I'm going to take my pastry cutter and I'm going to go through one more time. Maybe more than one more time. I'm going to go around until it looks right. So that means I won't have a lot of dry dusty flour. I won't have super large chunks of butter. All the butter will be smaller than pea size. It kind of starts to look flaky. And that's been the hardest part about my baking journey, is just having to learn how things look, you know, like you can't, nothing's done until it's done, and you can't know it's how it's supposed to be unless you've done it a lot. Like I heard you had to make 100 pie crusts before you could even be okay at it. Excuse me. And I turned my head. It's starting to look great. So yeah, that was a lot more than one more time. But since I'm doing a double batch here, it takes a little more time than if I were doing a smaller batch. Now I'm just going to scrape all around. Make sure I've got all the flour and butter cut. Oh, there was a big giant chunk. Did you see it? So that tells me maybe a few more turns of the bowl. And there's some recipes and pie crust videos that'll have you in a panic, thinking you just have to go super fast. You gotta get this done before it all messes up. But you really don't, not with this recipe. It just work steady. Don't go off and answer the door or anything, but just keep going. You keep your hands out of it, and that way the butter doesn't melt. Now if you were in a super hot kitchen or something, it might cause a problem. But I think my room is about 71 degrees. And everything's staying nice and cool. Everything's ready. Now I'm ready for the water. And I did set some cold water aside. It's probably not smart to pour directly over your bowl in case you overfill. So I'm gonna move it over here. Add 3/4 of a cup. I'm not gonna pour it all in at once. I'm gonna sprinkle some around. I'm gonna use my, you could also use a spatula if you don't have one of these, but you just kind of turn it and smush it. You can see it's starting to clump. That's good. Add it a little more. Turn and smush. Now you can see the clumps starting to get bigger. Still keeping my hands out of there. And I'm digging down into the bottom of the bowl, turning the bottom over to the top. I love this thing because it works like my hand. I can kind of turn it, mold it. I feel like I have a lot of control. Where with a spatula, like a long silicone spatula, I've broken so many of those handles because I press so hard. Okay, now I poured the rest of the water in, and hopefully that will be enough. Sometimes, depending on the butter I'm using or how, I don't know, what time of year it is, it seems like I need more water. And so if I do need more water, I'll just add a tablespoon at a time until the pie crust all sticks together. Oh, it's looking good. There's still some dry flour in there, so I gotta get that worked in. Just smush it together. does not look like I'm gonna need more. We are looking like a superstar. Okay. So I'm gonna use my knife, scrape my scraper. Don't want to waste any of that lovely pie crust. There we go. Now what I do is I take it all and I put it in a 1 gallon Ziploc bag. But at this point, if you wanted to, you could weigh it out into 10-ounce portions and make individual pie crust. But I just take the whole thing and put it in a big bag and let it sit in the refrigerator overnight. So I'm not even going to use this today. If you wanted to, you could use it in about 2 hours, and I haven't noticed much difference, but I always prepare ahead of time and make it the day before. So I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.